disappeared from my sister's wedding for 45 minutes to cry. Now everyone's mad at me, but I couldn't help it. It's been 8 years, so I feel safe in posting this. I love my sister, and it's water under the bridge, but we've never discussed or resolved this beef because that's not how that part of my family does things. Told her my sister seated me, one of the bridesmaids, at a table full of strangers away from everyone I knew at her wedding reception. I left to cry, but came back to help her celebrate. I, 53F, am never married, and it's taken me decades to heal my ish and make peace with it, but for years attending weddings as the always single was really upsetting and embarrassing. And although I am confident in non-romantic situations, outgoing and funny, I am overweight and have only had a handful of boyfriends in my life, so this issue was particularly painful and often made me cry out of humiliation and insecurity. 8 years ago, my half-sister, 28F the time, married a British man and insisted on the wedding being in his hometown, even though they lived here in the United States. He actually wanted the wedding to be in our home state because it's a popular place that people like to visit, and his friends and family from England were excited to have a reason to come here. But she was insistent that the wedding be in England. At the time, our dad, 72M, was dealing with significant dementia, had cancer, and a lot of mobility issues. One of our other sisters, 30F, who I'll call Lauren, was many years into treatment for stage 4 breast cancer and had a 10-month-old baby. The fourth sister gave birth 6 weeks early to a child who barely survived and was in the NICU. He was 7 months old, making it impossible for her to travel to England for the wedding. For the wedding, Lauren was the MOH, I and a cousin were bridesmaids, and 3 of the bride's friends were also bridesmaids. The bride and groom knew how I often felt extremely uncomfortable being alone at weddings and had been supportive of me in the past. But it became apparent to us as we tried to plan our trip that they really didn't have any intention of spending any time with us in Europe. They had a big group of affluent hipster friends at the time that dominated their social life. They planned to go early to England, as did many of her friends, and they planned a honeymoon with that whole entire group and his parents in the south of Spain at an oceanside, setting a cedar week directly following the wedding. My dad was not much of a traveler. His idea of vacation was camping, and we knew he would be very uncomfortable in Europe, especially given his dementia. Though my sister Lauren really wanted to join the group in southern Spain, so that we could see more of Europe without overtaxing her while she was in treatment and caring for a baby. So bride and Lauren had always been extremely close, basically BFFs, and Lauren hoped to spend more time with the bride and groom after the wedding. And she very much wanted some time to relax on a sunny beach, given the long illness she had been battling. But when we tried to make these plans, the bride and groom were very evasive, and it became clear to us that they did not want us there. So we don't know if perhaps we embarrassed them because we weren't affluent hipsters or what, but it seems particularly rude given that we were seeing our ailing and aging father and our cancer-stricken sister to travel across an ocean for a wedding. And if we were going to do all that we wanted to make a trip out of it and spend more than pool and just required for the wedding, it was pulling teeth to try and get information from them about where we should fly into, how we should travel to the north of England, and where we should stay. And although I had been to Paris many years before, I was the only one to have been to Europe before in our group. As I said, in many ways other than romantic, I am independent and confident. I very much wanted to see more of England, so I chose to fly in a day early and do a day tour I was excited to do. So I traveled alone to London, took the day trip, and then took the train north where the groom's aunt kindly met me at the train station, and our group stayed with her. She was a lovely hostess. That evening we expected to have dinner with the bride and groom, and after a lot of hassle we did end up having dinner with them, but immediately after we were hustled away, and they went out with their friends. The next night we transferred to the venue where we were all staying and had the rehearsal and rehearsal dinner. It was more of the same with the bride, and especially the groom, really blowing us off. The groom almost acted like we were invisible. When we got to the venue, I was all excited, and I gave him a big hug, and he literally gave me the hug and shove and then turned back to his friends. Very little was done in the way of introductions between the United States contingent and his friends and family there. Fast forward to the wedding and the reception. I've learned that weddings in England last a long time. After the wedding, there was a cocktail hour while we took pictures, and then the attendance couples were asked to make a splashy entrance. After we did that, and the bride and groom were introduced, I went searching for my seat. The next night, we transferred to the venue where we were all staying and had the rehearsal and rehearsal dinner. It was more of the same with the bride, and especially the groom, really blowing us off. The groom almost acted like we were invisible. When we got to the venue, I was all excited, and I gave him a big hug, and he literally gave me the hug and shove and then turned back to his friends. Very little was done in the way of introductions between the United States contingent and his friends and family there. Fast forward to the wedding and the reception. I've learned that weddings in England last a long time. After the wedding, there was a cocktail hour while we took pictures, and then the attendance couples were asked to make a splashy entrance. After we did that, and the bride and groom were introduced, I went searching for my seat. The bride finally noticed I was gone and sent Lauren to look for me. Lauren was very sympathetic and was trying to comfort me, but I'm also one of those people that will cry harder if you ask me what's wrong. After her speech, Lauren approached me to check in and said that when she told the bride and groom why I was upset, they just rolled their eyes and said I was being ridiculous. I did my best for the rest of the night to participate in all of the wedding things and dance with them. The bride never said a word about any of it, and the groom didn't speak to me once the entire evening. When we got back to the States, there was a lot of resentment, but as a group, we did our best to work through it. Because we love each other. A few years later, the groom made a snide comment to me about that situation, kind of as if he was mocking me for it, and I snapped back and told him that he hadn't even bothered to introduce me to the people he seated me with. He said he didn't think it was a big deal since I can, quote, talk to anybody. I asked if he really wanted to get into it, and he said no. So we both dropped it. We are all fine today, and I love them all dearly, but I still have a pretty deep wound, and writing this makes my eyes burn. So, am Ada for getting my feelings hurt at my sister's wedding and excusing myself to go cry?
Next story.
Husband's affair partner suffered a miscarriage, now he blames me. Did I really cause this tragedy? I don't know where to begin or where to end this story. I can't discuss this with anyone I know because I feel like in a dollar hole while also feeling justified at the same time. This story will also sound made up, but it's really not, and I'm just hurting and want some place to type it out too. I F36 have been with my husband, M39, for over a decade. Early on, I had to have a hysterectomy due to health complications and told him if he wanted kids, we should go our separate ways. So he insisted he was strictly child-free and didn't want kids. In every other way, we were perfect for each other. A few years into our marriage, we even had the chance to adopt a little girl from a family member's unplanned pregnancy. I was thrilled, but he still didn't want kids, so she was adopted elsewhere. Not being a mom hurt, but I accepted it. So, I snooped through his phone and found evidence of a very long affair. I'm not proud of it, but I did it. I needed that peace of mind. His mistress, F26 or 27, whom he'd introduced to me as his cousin, was around less than 2 months pregnant. They were discussing marriage after he divorced me. He admitted he didn't want to divorce me yet because he would lose our house, which I funded entirely. He'd also been using our joint account, which I contribute significantly more to. I earn considerably more than him to pay for her rent and hospital expenses. When I confronted him, he admitted to the affair and her pregnancy. She came over and things got heated. I tried to blame him, not her. But after a lot of tears and fighting, I lost control and told them that I hope they lost the child. I'm not proud of it, but I said it. He moved out of my house the next day, not sure where they live now. A few weeks later, she had a miscarriage. They blame me and believe I caused it. She came to our house and slapped me and was physically aggressive. I was not significantly injured. He didn't hurt me, but he didn't stop her either. Yes, I was foolish to let them in, but I am in a weird mental state too, and didn't expect her to hit me. Maybe I deserved it. I may have felt the same if someone said something like that about my unborn child and lost it. I won't file charges because it's not an option in my country, and maybe I deserved the beating for what I said. I just want to know if I'm the $1 hole, and if yes, how big of an $1 hole I am. Thanks.